I would tell them to turn on the film. I think that the gist around our building for a while has been that the reason why our offense is going is the offensive line. So it's gonna take a couple of years of proving people wrong for them to realize that it is what it is. We were in the top 5 in most of the rushing categories last year at the end of the season, and you talk about the progression from the year before last to last year. I mean, just tell them to turn on the film and watch it from week 1 to week 17. They'll see the progression. And they'll see how we're still doing our technique in week 17 down in Seattle. We're still, nobody's going through the motions out there. A game that we know that we're not going to the playoffs. It shouldn't matter to us, but we're out there. Everyone's out there going through their progressions and their techniques exactly like we're supposed to hone in on our skills, and it all go back to Kuz and Natty. You know what I mean? The coaches that we got around that Cliff brought around us. I would tell them to turn on the film.
Hey, DJ, it's Catherine. Where in the country are you right now, and how has that spot been, both with, your ways to handle coronavirus preparations and also protests and everything that is happening in the world right now?
I'm in Phoenix. Yeah, I'm in Phoenix. Yeah. So supposedly, when the COVID first came around, Phoenix was going to be one of the first places to clear up because it was going to be so hot. And now all of a sudden, there's this huge outbreak of coronaviruses again, and we're supposed to have like the same rate as New York when it first came out or something like that. So I don't know. I've been staying in the house because I'm a homebody anyway, so I've been looking for a reason to stay in the house. You know what I mean? But it's unfortunate for the reasons that we had to stay in the house and stuff that's going on in the world. And then the protests in Phoenix got pretty serious. The first couple of nights, I think, and they put us on a curfew immediately. So we just recently got off our curfew here. So I've been able to get out of the house a little bit more. I think the curfew, if you got caught outside the house after 8 o'clock, it was either 6 months in jail or like a $2,000 fine or something like that. So I was like, yeah, I need to stay in the house. I don't want to risk it.
Next 3 questions will be Darren Urban, Josh Weinfuss, Kent Summers.
Hey, DJ. With the drafting of Josh Jones, I mean, when you don't have an off season where you guys can get on the field, I'm sure it's tougher to get a judge on what a rookie might bring to the table. But, I mean, you're a guy who sat out his rookie year to get a better sense of the league. Where do you kind of see Josh fitting into this year's lineup, and how would you, being the left tackle, assess that right tackle spot right now with Marcus and Justin Murray and Josh, and how things might play out there?
Like you said, it's tough. It's tough to knowing that we're not in the building and not being able to see everyone. You know what I mean? See the young guy and put your hands on him. Just watching film on the kid though, he's exciting to watch. You can tell he's one of those kids that like playing ball. He's an athletic guy. You know what I mean? And it's fun to watch and see young tackles come up. You know what I mean? It feels weird being an older guy now. Like I'm going into year 6 and everybody's like calling me big bro and stuff. I'm like, man, what are y'all talking about? Like, why are you talking to me like this? So that's a funny stance to be on. But I know that all those guys, the guys that are in the room now that I know, Justin and Marcus, those guys are 2 competitors. So it's gonna be a fun summer. Them dudes is gonna get after it. I know that they're gonna do it. You know what I mean? It's football. These guys are ready for whatever. So it's gonna be fun.
Hey, DJ, how comfortable are you playing football with the coronavirus, like you said, spiking here? And obviously, there's no really second wave. This is kind of still going. How comfortable are you going to be playing against other players, being in a locker room with guys, being in a hotel with guys, on a bus, all that?
I'm probably still going to wear a mask. Obviously my mask is going to be really cool because they're going to be taking pictures of me and stuff, like on TV, it'll be really cool. But no, honestly, it may be very ignorant to think about it this way, and I don't mind saying that it is ignorant to think about it this way, but I know how dangerous it is to play football in a contact aspect. So I think me getting the coronavirus and playing is not so much what I'm worried about. I think so much more what I'm worried about is me contracting and bringing it home and giving it to my family. You know what I mean? I know what we deal with on a contact basis and what that can do to me as far as my life. You know what I mean? So I don't think playing with the corona, you know what I mean? I don't think that fears. I think playing with no fans, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. You know what I mean? But because I don't want to be exposed to it any further than I need to be. But I'm not gonna act like I don't play offensive line also, and I run my face into 300-pound men on a daily basis, and you know what I mean. And if I just so happen to turn my neck the wrong way, that it could be that, you know what I mean. So I'm not gonna act like that's not the same thing for me in my head, because that's just how I rationalize things so I can live a normal life. But it is what it is. We're gonna play football, so I'm not gonna sit on the phone and complain about it. I'm gonna be ready to go.
DJ, excuse me, to follow up on Josh's question. I mean, how you doing? Arizona's had an outbreak. Your home state of North Carolina not doing well. Reports today that some Cowboy players, Ezekiel Elliott has had it, some Texans. I mean, talking to teammates and guys around the league, how do you think guys are feeling about it?
I think that everyone, when you talk to people, everyone has a different stance. Some guys are more cautious of it. My wife is diabetic, so I have to be very cautious, because she's high risk. So that I have to take things into account like that. Some guys live with their elderly mother, so they have to take things into account like that, and they're more cautious of it. Some guys, they're single guys, and it's just them and the dog at the home, so they're like, we're ready to play ball. It's a little different stance, So it's everyone has a different opinion on it, and I think that's why it's going to be interesting to see how the NFL responds to it, because every time I talk to players, everyone feels differently about it. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a weird season of sports, let alone football.
Next three will be Jess Root, Kyle Odegaard, Richard Saenz.
Hey, DJ, the virtual offseason is given, especially, kind of give us the perspective of a big guy there on the offensive line. How different has it been to not be able to get on the field, and how that going to affect you guys as the season approaches? And following up on that, how important is it then for you guys to know that you have pretty much the same unit back this year?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say with the time off, because last year was my first year getting some vet days throughout the off season. Cliff came in, and he obviously he's a player coach, and he's played the game before, so he had some understanding, and he gave me some days to make sure I was able to get through the season with my body. So I'm interested to see how that works for guys who've been kind of on the fringe of being kind of beat up and hurt, and just kind of having to roll it over every year so they can kind of get the job done, and see if this will kind of give guys an offseason to kind of reset everything, and guys will be a little bit more fresh, or if it'll be the opposite, and it'll be kind of reminiscent of the lockout, where guys were it was either guys were really in shape and they were locked in the offseason, or they were really out of shape because they were only doing virtual meetings, you know what I mean? And I think that it's going to tell on itself. It's going to tell itself really quickly. Touching on the O-line, it's really exciting to have pretty much the same group back. That's the part that people don't understand is so important. We've had so many interchanging parts throughout the last few years, and to finally get a group of guys that are kind of honed in on each other, and we're learning the same thing from last year. We're not learning a whole new offense, you know what I mean? And everybody's, instead of having to learn, we're kind of just fine detailing on the way that we do things. Okay, we do outside zone like this, we do inside zone like this, and it's becoming that. So it's going to be a fun year for us. Just dealing with Cool in the O-line into the room, you can tell that everyone's dialed in. We sit on the phone with the young Rook, Josh, and I'm like, yo, this kid is rapping off every answer with the quickness, and it's just like it's refreshing to see, because everybody is, all of the older guys in a position where we can correct somebody if it's a slip, and we can help guys out. But our young guys, they understand from Cool, from the energy they get the Cool, and how imperative it is to learn the information, and everybody prepared when they get ready to get asked the questions. So when it's time for us to roll them out there, they have to step in for somebody. They'll be prepared.
Hey, DJ, you guys, I think, gave up 3 sacks total in the final 3 games. Was there something either demonstrative or sustainable that you saw from those 3 games that really gives you a lot of confidence, like you said, with a lot of the same players coming back?
It just lets you know that all of the guys have bought into what we're being taught, and that's refreshing when you see a group, grown men, especially when you got guys like older guys like Marcus and in between guys like me and Justin and Justin Murray, like the age range that we have in the room, and you see everyone bought in and Sweezy's blocked in on everything that we're doing. It's hard to slip. So you don't want it. The season, it almost like we developed around each other. It got to the point where we didn't want to let each other down so much that we were so locked in on every small detail, because it had got to the point where the O-line wasn't expecting me to have a mental area anymore. So I knew I can't mess up anything. So, you know what I mean? The way that we trusted each other and we depended on each other and we didn't want to let each other down, it became infectious. Everybody felt that, and it was something that I think that we're going to be able to hang our hat on even going forward, especially with our group.
DJ, good to see you, man. I just want to, you mentioned, it's good. You mentioned you're a veteran now, year 6. So you know what it's like to make that jump from the first year to the second year. How excited are you to see Kyler Murray make that progression from his first to second year, especially since you were so vocal on how good he was from the beginning?
Listen, I made a pretty big jump from my rookie year to my second year, you would say, right? Okay, I'm gonna answer for you. Yes.
They had me muted, so I had to say yes.
Yes. Now, that was with what I started with as a rookie. Now, when we transfer and we talk about rookie of the year, Kyler Murray, just imagine the attention to detail this guy's been locked in on all offseason. I mean, the way that this kid focuses is hard to compare to any other rookie that I've been around. It's hard. I've never seen it. And it's fun and it's refreshing to see. And, he is so confident in himself in the way that he does stuff. And you can tell that that's why he's so focused on everything that he does and the way that he does stuff and his technique and the way that he's trying to do things and how he wants stuff to look. Because he's so confident in himself, and he's all about backing up what he says and how he feels about himself. And it's so refreshing to see. And that's the energy I want from my quarterback. And it's one of those things that's infectious. And like I said, it became one of those things, just like being around the O-line. It's good to be around a young kid that's in week 17 still talking with Cliff about how he should sit this ball up. It's so refreshing to see. So I'm so excited to watch this kid go from year 1 to year 2. It's exciting. I found out the other day that he named his dog after me, so it's gonna be. He really cares about me.
Next 3 would be Bob McManaman, Catherine Fitzgerald, and Josh Weinfuss.
So I guess it's called Hump, or is it DJ? You can tell me.
He told me that he was either gonna choose between Hump Jr., Lil DJ, or Sim4. Sim4 is a short abbreviated Southern way to say 74. So Sim4 is that was my number 1 suggestion, but we're waiting to see on what the.
My question. Sorry, that was great. My question is about Mason Cole and how much do you think he's ready to step into a starting role? That's what it was going to be. You played with both guys last couple of years as starters. What about Mason Cole?
Yeah, the thing about Mason is, I'm gonna tell you my favorite thing about Mason. Me and Mason are very similar in the likeness of Scrappy Doo. We're not the biggest guys on the O-line. And Mason will tell you, he don't even care about not being the biggest guy on the O-line. Mason knows that no matter what happens on this play, he is going to fire off the ball and try to hit you as hard as he can. And once you make contact, he's going to run his feet. And that's all that. Knowing that willingness from Mason to not care. I don't care if that's Aaron Donald. I don't care who it is across from me. If he knocks me down, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to dive in his face again. And we're gonna keep doing this until the bell ring. And that's, you have to that nature is something that when you have that as a young player, that's the one thing that I remember as a young player not knowing the plays sometimes and being like, man, I have no clue what they just said in the huddle just now, but I know that the ball is coming my way. I'm just gonna run at this dude so hard. And a lot of times I would be doing the wrong thing, but I would get my guy off the screen, and it would make my job a lot easier for me. So just knowing that he has that instinct in the fight or flight instance, he's gonna fight every time. I can roll with that guy every time. That's my guy.
DJ, we heard some last week from Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald about the conversations they had in the wide receiver room following all the George Floyd protests. What were those conversations like in the O-line room?
It's very interesting. The O-line room is so mixed of cultures, and it's I feel like if the world was like the O-line room, the world would be so much kumbaya. Everybody would be a lot chunkier. I'm telling you, it would be a hefty world. But the way that we speak in the O-line room and the way that we talk in the O-line room is a way that when Justin Pugh asked me how do you feel when you get pulled over by the police, and I explained it to him, and he could then in turn tell me like, bro, my whole life living as a white man, I've never looked at the police as doing anything wrong because they've always done the right thing for me. And I was like, yeah, and you got to look at the flip side of that for me and being on the complete opposite as an instance as a young man, and it took me to grow and gain some success for me to live that same life. And he was like breaking down those barriers where it becomes, I would have never known this because I wouldn't have never been comfortable anywhere else to have this conversation that I would be in the O-line room. So the conversation that we've been having this week, it's been fun to see because we've taught a lot of things, and we've explained a lot of things, and we've catalyzed a lot of guys to understand that certain phrases that are used, what we mean when we say them. It's hard for some people to hear certain things and understand that we don't mean that your life doesn't matter when we say Black Lives Matter. We just mean that clearly over the last 500 years, the world has showed us that Irish doesn't. You just need to scream, you're Irish right now. And now that you understand what I'm saying, I need you to scream it with me because you look like them. So they're going to understand it from you first before they understand it from me. So it's been fun breaking down those barriers. And like I said, it's a lot easier in the O-line room because we're a group of guys that we depend on each other, and we're used to rubbing shoulders and mixing cultures and different cultures with guys. It's been fun. Hard conversation.
Hey, DJ, Cliff said a couple weeks ago, I think it was, that he will support whatever you guys decide to do during the anthem. What do you expect players will do? Will you take a knee? What do you think?
I'm interested to see. I know whatever we do, it'll be a collective thing for the most part. I got a good council of veterans that I lean on for leadership at times like this. Guys like Corey Peters, Larry Fitzgerald, Pat P. Those guys I lean on at times like this because I know that they're Black men, and this is something that means something to them, and I know that they're not gonna lead me in the wrong direction, and they're not gonna let me make an irrational decision. And it's also refreshing to know that I play for an organization that is going to support my decision whichever way that we decide to go, and our voices are not going to be silent. So that's also very refreshing, and it's great to know.
Next three: Howard Balzer, Darren Urban, Nick King.
Hi, DJ. Howard Balzer from SI.com.
How you doing?
I want to go back to what you said right at the beginning about watching the film of the line and get your thought on those that try to evaluate what individual offensive linemen do, maybe when they don't understand or know what the actual requirements or responsibilities are on a play, and how much, of course, the whole team, the whole unit playing together is so important.
Yeah, that's why I have such a hard time with apps like PFF and stuff like that. It's like how do you know that was a negative right there? Maybe I wasn't supposed to block that guy. Maybe it was a trap. So when you watch a film, it's hard to break down film when you don't have a football mind. And when I say a football mind, I mean when you're looking at a play and you understand that, okay, this play is inside zone just from looking at the play. You understand that this play is dubs or this play is power just from looking at the play. And when you have that mind, you can understand that, okay, on dubs, I need to be looking for these two double teams. And on zone, I need to be looking at what angle that they're moving on. Is their main angle matching the back? So it's hard that's why you see players get so frustrated when they have to talk about plays and film with people who don't have a football mind and a mind that I can tell you on film truly what happened and what I was responsible for without you looking at me like I just spoke Spanish, So it's one of that's why we have such a hard time going back and forth about it. But I think that when you're looking for a player and you're looking at their film, just look at the the progression and the technique that they're moving with. If they're moving efficiently, if they're making contact and they look that they're in a control position and they're moving their opponent in the direction that the ball should be going and matching the angle of the back depending on where the run is going. In the most part, you can tell when the offensive lineman is doing his job the right way. It's a lot harder to explain detail when it's when I can't explain scheme.
DJ, there was a report out that Cliff had canceled this week's of virtual meetings and kind of ended things last week. One, I just wanted to make sure that was making sure that was true. And two, he had said the last time he talked to us that you guys were basically running out of things to do in the meetings without being able to get on the field and tweak stuff. Did you, as a player, did you kind of feel that?
Yeah. It just, after a while, when you're not watching yourself every day, it's kind of a buffer for the rest of the stuff. You know, pretty much every day, you only have to, the stuff that we went over during the virtual meetings, they would have to filter that in with our film also of us practicing. So when you don't have that footage of 2 hours every day, it's a lot of quizzes. I'm gonna tell you, for a player, it's a lot more tests and pop quizzes. And boy, is it hard to cheat when you have the camera on your face. It's hard to cheat off your paper when the coach is asking you a question. He's looking at you like this, and you're like, yeah, coach, the coach is like, can you look at the camera, please? The camera's in front of you. It's hard, but it was fun, man. It was good to see like how mature our room is. You know, I don't think we had many instances where guys missed. And if it was just a miscommunication of time or anything like that. So it was good to see guys adjust. Did I answer all the parts of the question? Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys got canceled this week. The rest of the meetings were canceled this week?
Yeah, they were. Yes, they were. For the vets. I don't know about the young guys. I think there's still stuff there. I think they're still there.
DJ, Nick King here from Free TV CBS 5. It feels like a lot of athletes have been able to use their voice a lot in the last couple weeks here in the aftermath of George Floyd.
Yeah.
And I know you're one of them, especially on social media. What do you kind of see as the role for any athlete at this time and for yourself specifically, kind of what you can contribute to the conversation?
I think that everyone can contribute something. I don't think that we as people should hold everyone to the same standard. You know, I think that whatever people are able to do, they should do it. You know, I don't feel like everybody should get on a microphone and talk in front of everybody. You know, some people should protest. Some people should get on social media. Some people should have tough conversations with their white friends. Some people should stop letting something that's been said to you every day that you go to work slide, you know, and that's the way that it starts. And I think that people get caught up sometimes in what did you do or showing what you did so it was a part of something. And it's not so important to show what you did. That's not the part that's so important. Maybe it's just, hey, you're the only black guy in the neighborhood, but you can sit down and talk to your friends in your neighborhood, your neighbors, y'all sit down and y'all have powwows and barbecue. Have those talks with them. Have those tough talks and see where they're at, see where your neighbor is at, and see if they're willing to break down those barriers and those thoughts that they have. And also be willing on the flip side to do the same thing. I think that it's been really refreshing to see everyone have something to say though. I really appreciate that, whether it's good or bad, you know. I like to look at things a little bit different because, like I said, I like to think about stuff rationally, and I understand that just like I have scars, everyone else has scars. You know what I mean? And even if you were taught hate, you were taught hate by someone who was supposed to teach you something differently. So if you're willing to learn something differently, I'm willing to teach you that. Now, if you want to be ignorant and hang your hat on what you know is wrong, then hey, I'm not. You know what I mean? That's your prerogative to do what you want to do. But if you know that you've been taught something wrong and you're willing to listen to something good from me and just hear me out and understand what I've been going through and so I can hear the same thing from you and we can bridge the gap. So you may have been thinking something about this group of people and the whole time we've been thinking this and we could bridge the gap between the two of us, and you can go back and tell 5 people, and I can go back and tell 5 people, and we never know how that thing snowballs. That one phrase could snowball to this, and this, you know. So that's the angle that I've been taking on, and it's hard. Social media makes it really hard because everybody has a voice and everybody has something to say, and a lot of times I find myself arguing on social media with 8-year-olds that I think are 30, but they're like more than likely they're 9-year-old kids. You know what I mean? And you think you're talking to a grown man, and you're so concerned in your mind about this is the society, and then you never even know if this is social media. You never know who this is on the other side of this keyboard. You know, so that I try to get next to the people who are close to me and let them know how I think about things. And having conversations with Justin Pugh and guys in the office, other guys in the office and lounge room, we just breaking down barriers and let me know what they think, how they perceive stuff, how they feel when they hear me say this and this and this, and how I feel when they say this. And like I said, it's different in the office and lounge room, obviously, but that's where I know to start. So that's why I will.
Next 3 would be Kevin Zimmerman, Catherine Fitzgerald, Kyle Odegaard.
Hey, DJ, it's Kevin from Arizona Sports. Thanks for taking the time, man. Just wanted to follow up on Kyler and what you've seen, whatever virtual time you've spent with him, as far as comparing him to last year and even the end of last season. What have you seen this offseason as far as his progression, his leadership, his vocalness, as far as talking to you guys?
I think that the thing that he's doing the most, I think, is kind of becoming himself. You know what I mean? Realizing that he could be Kyler Murray and not have to try to stand up in the light and be this guy. It's cool to be yourself and be the guy that you think you are, and not have to think you have to hold yourself up to an image. So it's good. I've been hearing that those guys are gonna kind of get up. Him and the receivers are supposed to be getting up. I think Larry or somebody set some up. I heard he was great by the other day in the last few days of virtual meetings. Nobody turned their camera on, so I don't know who was talking. But yeah, I'm excited to see his progression from year 1 to year 2. I think he's gonna explode. His jersey's gonna be clean, so yeah, he'll look good.
DJ, what are some ways you're getting to know the rookies on the team? Like, are you reaching out to them individually or stuff like that? And then what do y'all do to replace things like making the rookies do karaoke when you guys are virtual?
First of all, I don't communicate with rookies. Rookies communicate with me. So, no, I'm just kidding. We make them tell a joke first meeting. As soon as the meeting come on, they got to tell a joke. And then apparently we're still gonna make them they're gonna have rookie shows. We go to camp. It's gonna be a legit show this year. I hear like it's gonna be scheduled times and dates and all kind of stuff. So I'm excited. I hate doing a rookie show because rookies, it's always one rookie that thinks he's too cool or something like that. And then he's like in the DB room or something, and like Pat is mean, but Pat is not like O-line room, D-line room mean. You know, see, like Pat just be like, I'm not gonna teach you nothing. And then say that's a whole nother type of mean. But me, we can probably give you a swirly or something. You know, you got to do it in the O-line room. You got to do it. So I'm excited to see that we're gonna have like scheduled times. Guys are gonna have to have time limits to go up there, so it's gonna be fun.
DJ, how unique was it learning how to block for Kyler with his mobility? And do you feel like you guys have a better understanding of what he likes to do in the pocket and outside of it?
I had all mobile quarterbacks in high school and college, so it was kind of a snapback. I like having mobile quarterbacks. It kind of makes it easier because for me, I know that a mobile quarterback is not going to try to take as many hits, you know, because they are mobile. And if you're doing your job, it's going to be a few times that you may miss, and they're going to get you out of it. You know, they're going to bail you out of something. And I know that I can look on film and probably I can find at least 3 or 4 clips that Kyler bailed me out of a sack and then completed the ball. Gave me enough time to get on my guy and then complete the ball. You know what I mean? So I love playing with a mobile quarterback. Like I said, it's one of those things that I always know. He's one of those backyard football guys. You know what I mean? One of those guys that just know how to play football. So he's always going to get to a spot that he needs to, and it's kind of one of those weird O-line things that you can kind of like fill out as the game go on.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up with Kent Summers and then Howard Balzer.
DJ, we've seen an apology from Commissioner Goodell about how he handled the protests a few years ago, and Drew Brees has apologized. And you mentioned earlier conversations with white people. And have you had people apologize to you for like, I did not know? And I mean, it's a multifaceted question, but do you accept those apologies, or what goes into that?
100%. You know, one thing I will say, with Dale, I won't act like I'm not a businessman and understand how business works. And I think you understand what I mean when I say that. And I will say that I would have liked to heard Colin Kaepernick's name in that apology. I will say when Drew Brees apologized, I would have liked to have saw his face originally, like I did when I was able to see his face when he made the original remarks. Now, when I tell you that I think rationally, I tell you I understand that people are taught different things than I was taught, you know, and I know that you may need to hear it differently, and you may need to be scalded before you can hear it correctly or open your ears all the way, because it's different for different people. But I don't think I've had many people call me and apologize, because most of my friends that are around me that are white, we've already had these talks, and they know the way that I feel about things, because, you know, we had the Colin Kaepernick, so we've already kind of broke down these barriers and had these talks. But it was refreshing to go through it again with guys in my room, with the new guys in my room, like Justin. Me and Justin kind of missed that phase, and now we play beside each other. It's so refreshing for me to know how he feels about what I'm going through as a black man, and how it makes him feel. And he knows that he doesn't understand what I'm going through, but he sees it, and he knows that what's happening to my people is wrong. So he can respect that, and I know that's a different stance, you know. But I accept apologies. I don't want people calling me and apologizing for being white, because that's like, you know, like you can't. What, you mad? Your mom and dad had you? Like, you know what I mean? I don't want you. Don't call me and say sorry I'm white. Like, don't do that to me now. That's awkward. Now I'm on the phone with you, and then you're sobbing. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to say. You know, but no, I'm kidding. But like that stance for me is to apologize for not understanding. That's the first step. That's the first step. You were wrong. Okay. Cool. Now we can talk about this. Now maybe you can truly ask me some questions like, man, I was wrong, but why do you say it like this? Why can't you say it? It's like, oh, okay. You don't understand when I say Black Lives Matter. Oh, listen, bro, I'm not saying that your life doesn't matter when I say that. All I'm saying is we know that we live in America. All of our lives should matter. That's what we would hope. That's what we would hope under the Constitution. That's what we would hope that all of our lives would matter. But over the last 500 years, statistically speaking, it's showing that our country screaming at us that ours don't matter. So we need to scream it. And now if I can get you to understand that with me, now you can stand beside me and scream it. And now our adversaries can look at us like, whoa, that guy looks like me. Maybe I can talk to him and get him to understand what he's thinking is wrong. And then you can in turn tell him what he is thinking is wrong. And then he can make a decision. A person that looks just like you has to make a decision, whether I'm going to go against my people and what I think is wrong, or am I going to go and stand on what I think is right. And it's tough for people to tell someone who's been taught hate that what your parents and what your mother and father taught you as a child is wrong. That's hard. You know what I mean? Even though what you know is right. Imagine if someone looked in your face and was like, yeah, that's wrong. You know, that's tough to think about. And I won't look at someone who doesn't understand what I'm going through and act like it's not hard for me to get them to understand that, because I know it is. But it's also wrong on my end if I don't say anything. So.
Thanks, DJ. First, on your comment about the age of people on social media, I think the problem sometimes is people that are 30 or older actually act like their age. But
hold on, you're breaking up. I couldn't hear you there. You're breaking up.
All right. In terms of the anthem, there's been some players who have spoken out and said that they wonder if it's necessary now to do it because the original intent obviously was to try to bring attention to it. The message was hijacked. We know that. But since the attention is there now, that some players have said maybe we don't need to do that and result in some of the negatives that come from and keep trying to hijack the message. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you just have to, about the hijacking the message, I think you just have to keep standing on it and keep getting people to understand that if you want to be ignorant, you can be ignorant, but obviously it's not about the flag. And then I think it's a responsibility on the government to respond in a way that, are you going to make these changes so we don't have to continue to protest? Are you going to change police policies? Are you going to change the way that you do things in-house? Are things going to change? If we're going to keep arresting these police that are killing us and then they keep getting acquitted and getting off with cold-blooded murder, then things are not changing. You know what I mean? We're just bringing more attention to it and more people are seeing how flawed this system is. You know, and then that's when it becomes which way does it go then? Now, if things begin to change, then we're having a different talk, or policies changing, or people starting to have to suffer the consequences for the decisions that they're made, then changes being made. But just bringing attention to it, I don't know if that's not attention is changing is bringing the attention, but the change is not happening yet. So I don't know if that you know what I mean, that can be true for me, because I haven't seen anything happen yet, you know what I mean, in my likeness. You know, I've seen some cities do some small frivolous things and put funds in the inner cities and make it seem like they're giving huge amount of funds because it's $150 million, but in reality it's 1% of your total budget that's been moved from your police department to your inner city. So, you know what I mean, I know that you're pulling these pull the wool over my people's eyes, it's hard for me to sit back and act like things are really changing just because that people are saying, companies are publicly apologizing. You know what I mean? And it's cool that you're publicly apologizing and saying, putting your Black Lives Matter posts and stuff like that. Are you going to change your hiring practices? Are your hiring practices going to become equal? Are you going to start hiring people because they're qualified for their job, not because, you know what I mean, you play golf with their son, you play golf with their father? You know, are you going to start, our admissions board going to truly start selecting people off of admissions and not off of where the schools they're coming from or the feeder systems that they're coming from? If stuff like that's not going to change, then I don't know if the process is going to stop, because it's either going to go one way or the other, because there's more light being shined on it now. So there's more people with true knowledge on these issues that's talking about it.